All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to tackle one of the most critical links between microeconomic theory and what actually happens in the boardroom. We're doing a deep dive case study on what's called the short-run shutdown decision. This is one of the toughest calls a manager in a competitive market will ever have to make. And trust me, this isn't just some abstract exercise with graphs. For a business that's struggling, this is literally the math of survival.
So I want you to really put yourself in the manager's shoes. The day is starting, you've looked at your costs, you've seen the market price, and the numbers are just ugly. There's no way around it. You are losing money on every single sale. Now, what's your gut reaction? It's a shut it all down, right? Stop the bleeding. But is that actually the smart, rational economic decision? As we're about to see, the right answer is often the complete opposite of what you'd expect.
To really unpack this dilemma, we first have to understand the world our business lives in. Our case study is a small homestay, and it's operating in what economists call a perfectly competitive market. Now, that term is super important because it means our manager is what we call a price taker. And that one constraint changes everything.
So what does it really mean to be a price taker? Well, it means you have zero market power, zilch. You can't just decide to charge more for your rooms because you're surrounded by tons of other businesses offering pretty much the same thing. If you raise your price, your customers will just walk down the street. The market price is this external force, set by supply and demand, and your only choice is to accept it. That's the box we're playing.
Before we dive into the crisis, it's actually really helpful to look at the good times. Let's start with a scenario where the firm is absolutely crushing it. In econ speak, this is called earning a supernormal profit, or economic profit. This is when you're making money above and beyond what's considered a normal return for your industry.
And our source gives us a perfect example, the Eid holiday rush. Suddenly, there's this huge, temporary spike in demand for places to stay. Since the number of rooms in town is pretty much fixed in the short term, that market price just goes through the roof. And here's the key. This isn't because the manager is a genius, it's not some brilliant marketing campaign, it's just an external market event that they get to benefit from. This chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at that gap. The market price, that's your revenue for each room, is way up at 350,000 rupiah. But the average total cost to get that room ready, all your costs fixed and variable, is only 200,000. That big space between the two bars, that, my friends, is pure economic profit. And here's the simple math. You take that market price of 350,000, you subtract your total cost of 200,000, and boom, 150,000 rupiah in economic profit for every single room you rent. And remember, this isn't just accounting profit. It means you're doing better than the average firm in your industry. These are the glory days. But as we all know, markets can turn on a dime. The good times don't last. So let's flip this script and look at the exact opposite situation. The holiday is over, the tourists are gone, and our manager is facing a much, much tougher reality. This is our crisis. It's a rainy Tuesday in November. Demand has totally collapsed. To get anyone at all to book a room, you have to accept a crazy low price. But here's the painful part. While your revenue just fell off a cliff, your fixed costs, like your rent, haven't changed one bit. And that's where our whole dilemma starts. Look at how the relationship has completely flipped. That gray bar, our average total cost, is still stuck at 200,000. But the blue bar, the price we can get, has crashed down to 150,000. Now, every single time we rent a room, we're visually going underwater. The cost is higher than the revenue. The math here is just as simple, but it's a lot more painful to look at. A price of 150,000 minus a total cost of 200,000, that leaves you with a loss of 50,000 rupiahs. Think about that. Every customer who walks through the door is, on paper, costing you money. Which brings us right back to that huge question. So here we are at the heart of the problem. You're guaranteed to lose money on every unit. Should you just keep going? I mean, your gut says no, right? Why would you even turn the lights on if you know you're going to lose money? But as we've said, economic logic is a little more complicated than that. This quote from our source material is really the core of our entire discussion today. It tells us flat out that our first instinct to just shut down might be dead wrong. There's a hidden logic here, a reason why knowingly operating at a loss might be the smartest move you can make. So how do we find that logic? Well, we need to use a formal tool called the short-run shutdown rule. It sounds fancy, but it's actually a really simple and powerful framework. It helps the manager get past that gut reaction and make a decision based on data, a decision designed to do one thing: lose the least amount of money possible in the short run. The absolute key to this whole puzzle is splitting your costs into two buckets. First, you have fixed costs. Think of your rent payment. You have to pay that whether you have 1 guest or 100 guests or even 0 guests. They're fixed. But then you have variable costs. These are the costs you only pay when you have a customer. For our homestay, that's things like electricity, the cleaning supplies, the coffee for the room, washing the sheets. Understanding this difference is everything.
And this slide shows you exactly how the rule works. It's a simple comparison. If the market price is higher than your average variable cost, you stay open. Why? Because every sale brings in enough cash to cover its own direct costs, the soap, the electricity, and then there's a little bit left over. That little bit extra helps pay a piece of your fixed costs, like the rent. You're still losing money overall, but your loss is smaller than if you just shut down and paid the entire rent with 0 revenue coming in. But if the price drops below your variable cost, you shut down immediately. At that point, you're not even covering the cost of cleaning the room, and every customer just makes your losses even bigger.
If this still feels a bit abstract, think about this great real-world example from our source. Picture a little drink stall on the beach. On a cold, rainy Tuesday, maybe they can't even sell a can of soda for more than what it costs them to buy it and pay someone to stand there. Price is less than ABC. So what do? They close. But on a hot, sunny Saturday, people will pay a lot for that cold drink. The price is way higher than the variable costs. So they open. They're using this rule, maybe without even knowing the name for it.
Okay, let's walk our homestay manager through this step by step. Step 1, we know we're losing money because the price of $150K is less than our total cost of $200K. Step 2, now for the important part. The manager needs to know their average variable cost. Let's just say for this example, it's 100,000 rupiah. Step 3, this is the moment of truth. Compare the price of 150K to the AVC of 100K. Since the price is higher, every booking brings in an extra 50,000 rupiah that can go towards paying the fixed costs. Step 4, the logical, loss-minimizing decision is to stay open. If they shut down, they lose the entire amount of their fixed costs. By staying open, they lose less.
Now, it is absolutely vital that you do not mix this idea of a short-run shutdown with a long-run exit. They are two completely different things, driven by different numbers and with totally different consequences.
This slide lays it out perfectly. A shutdown is a tactic. It's temporary. It's about how you handle a slow Tuesday or a rainy season. And the trigger is when price falls below your average variable cost. An exit, on the other hand, is a strategy. It's permanent. It's the decision to sell the business and walk away for good. And the trigger for that is when the price is consistently below your average total cost. Because let's face it, no business can lose money forever.
So let's boil this all down. What are the key things you need to remember as a manager? First, know your costs and what they're for. Your overall profit or loss is about price versus average total cost, but your daily open or close decision is all about price versus average variable cost. Second, you have to get comfortable with the idea that sometimes the best you can do is lose less money. That's the real game. And finally, always remember the difference between a short-term tactic, like a shutdown, and a long-term strategy, like an exit.
And this leads us to the final and maybe the hardest question for any manager. The shutdown rule is great for telling you what to do today, but what if you have to make that same loss-minimizing decision every day for a month or a whole quarter? At what point does a string of smart, short-term decisions actually add up to a long-term failure? Knowing when to stop fighting the daily battle and rethink the whole war, well, that's what separates the good managers from the great ones. That's the real dilemma.